around the COP26 meeting. It was that promises like that from India is like a 75-year-old man who's hailed for setting an ambitious target to quit drinking within 30 years. So, I mean, of course India is going to commit to a half a century from now, but in the meantime, they'll do anything they want. And a half a century from now, hopefully people will have woken up and realize this is insane.
Either that or all the people who remember it will be dead.
Well, that's right. Yeah, I can promise to lose weight in 100 years.
Well, look.
That's right. You're going to one way or the other.
Oh, that's true.
I think it's really instructive, and I don't know how this fits into the puzzle, but I do think it's really instructive to take note of the fact that when it comes to the dangerous greenhouse gases that are being produced, as human beings, okay, these are the gases that we produce. So when you think about it, I mean, it comes down to all animal life basically being dangerous for the planet.
Yeah. Just
by virtue of the fact that we're alive.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what else we're doing. And one wonders at what point in time the climate alarmists are going to start talking about the need for, reducing our population, because just humanity itself, quite apart from what it's doing in terms of industry or progress, for want of a better way of describing it, independent of those things, we're actually in danger to the
talking
environment.
About it.
Well, I don't know. I see, when it comes to this stuff, I generally there's a switch in my head that turns off. I go, okay, yeah, the climate, whatever. Okay, it's all I know is we had a tornado landed near our house. What was it? 3 years ago? 4 years ago?
4 years, yeah.
The city of Ottawa declared a climate emergency, and since then, we haven't had any tornadoes. So I'm going, well, okay, I think
obviously
that emergency, yeah, that it worked.
Well, that was one of the
that's one of the things that you have to do is, I would declare victory right now, okay, in Ottawa. We're not doing that until the top of the hour, though. We're going to you want to stay with us, ladies and gentlemen, because but I'm telling you now, I know I've given you this advice before, but now this is really serious, okay? Take the time right now to take your Valium.
Yeah.
Okay, especially if you happen to be in and around Canada's national capital. Okay, it's just do yourself a favor, take the Valium, maybe have a glass of scotch with it so that it kicks in faster.
Really knock you out.
and then kick back and relax and listen to the rest of the show, because you're going to want to do that. You're going to want to take it easy. But let's go back to Glasgow. Canada's delegation to the climate conference is 300 people. More than 300 people.
Yeah, it includes photographers and all sorts of people. They can't take pictures of themselves.
Well, Catherine McKenna.
Well, whatever happened to the selfies?
Yeah, it's. Well, I guess that's what the general. No. You see, it's only the general population that takes selfies, I guess, with political personalities. If you're a minister or if you're an important person, because presumably if you went on this trip, you're an important person. Then you're not taking selfies with the you're not taking selfies with the general population out in the street. Okay, you are posing for official portraits for the rest of the important people. Okay, because this is the cool kids table. Mm-hmm. It may hold 30,000 plus people, but it's still the cool kids table. So if you want to be a cool kid, you have to be invited to one of these big international conferences.
I just pulled up something here I think is kind of interesting. It's concerning what Putin and President Jinping Xi did at the COP conference. Of course, neither of them went. But Putin sent a short recorded video presentation, 223 words. Oh, yeah, he really takes it seriously. And he spent almost the whole time talking about the one thing that he would commit to, and that was to plant more trees. He made no commitments at all about reducing carbon emissions or coal usages and no specific pledges. Okay, so that's Putin. In President Xi's case, he didn't even bother with a video message, and of course he didn't go. He only had a short written message, which basically made no commitments to any reductions of anything. So in that environment, then Trudeau stands up and says, yes, we're all working together and we're going to dedicate billions of taxpayer dollars to all these things, which, again, I think any sort of financially responsible person would say, and where are you getting the money? So I mean, I think Canada is just being an absolute sucker, and I hope in the last bit of the show we can get into how Ottawa in particular is being a super sucker.
Oh, that's just what we need to inspire us going into the holiday season.
Oh, yeah, but it's good because we're just about to put out a report on this, and we're going to show how other cities, this is a cautionary tale, this is what happens if you declare a climate emergency and you start to back down to environmental activists. The Calgary City Council just declared a climate emergency, I understand, or they were debating it, and I understand they all agreed. So it must be enabled by now. They think there's no consequences. Well, as we'll talk about later in the show, there are big consequences. If you give them a lever long enough, they can lift your whole city and pry it into the river.
So, okay, but before we get into this, I just want to point out a couple of interesting news stories. Okay, so back in in July, there was a news story that was making headlines that UNESCO was recommending that the Great Barrier Reef, which is off of Australia, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
The Great Barrier Reef,
yep, that's where it is,
be listed in danger. That
in danger of what?
Well, in danger of disappearing, obviously, right? So
the Great Barrier Reef.
The Great Barrier Reef. So that.
Oh my God.
Okay, that was in July. Today, on CNN, the headline is, Great Barrier Reef explodes into life in magical spawning event.
Magical. Oh, good.
We wouldn't want one of those non-magical ones.
You see, if these guys were smart, they'd look at how they have just grotesquely overpromised what they're going to do about climate change, okay? I mean, grotesque doesn't even really capture it. So they've terribly overpromised. There's no way they can meet all of these commitments. And so what they should be doing is they should be looking at stories like this and saying, well, look at all the stuff we've done already, which, of course, is virtually nothing, but that's beside the point, and just declare victory and go, okay, we don't have to do the rest of this stuff.
Yeah.
Okay? We've saved the planet.
That's right. But
and have a party, Save the Planet Day.
Well, the real problem is concerning the perspective that the public have. I mean, they think the world's going to hell in a handbasket, and it isn't. I mean, it just simply is not. And, here's an example. World population from 1961 to 2013 doubled from 3.1 to 7.2 billion. Okay, now we're supposed to have mass starvation. But in fact, the percentage of undernourished people in the world has dropped from 30% then to 11% in the past 70 years. I mean, we're seeing, for example, in New England, in the United States, there is now more forest cover than there was at the time of the Civil War. And the reason, of course, is because our farming is so much more efficient. So a lot of the forests are growing back. So, today farmers are feeding a growing world population and providing us the best food in history with less land. And yet that never makes the press. Okay, and it bleeds, it leads, I guess, is the philosophy that prevents this kind of thing from being told to people. We still think we have a food crisis, a population crisis. No, we don't have any of that. In fact, we're doing better than at any time in history. It's funny, I was interviewing Steve Gorham today on the America Out Loud show, and it was pointed out that I think it was King Richard II. They were looking at his menu. And his menu was not as good as the average person in today's world. So we eat like kings in comparison with the even the recent past. So, the world is actually doing really well. And yet, I wish George Carlin was still alive. He would make so much fun of the Glasgow conference. Remember what he said in his environmental skit? He said,
yes.
He said, save the whales, save the snails, save the bees, save the trees, save the planet? What? We can't even look after ourselves, and we're going to try and save this big ball of gas or rocks and stuff. And he just made total fun of it, and it's just so ludicrous. I mean, it really is. There are important things to work on, but climate. Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, but if we do have a problem with food, it's not from a production side. There is a problem with the distribution side.
Yeah.
And that is totally within our control. Mm-hmm. And what's going on there, I have no idea, but I think it's pretty fair to say that there are some real problems on that front.
Yes,
food is in warehouses, but it's not being disseminated.
Not enough fossil fuel burning trucks on the road.
Yeah, that's right. You shut down all your trucking supply because you're trying to save the climate, and you starve people because they don't get their food.
Yeah, that's a real problem. And that, again, is something we could do something about. But for whatever reason, there are ships stacked up like cordwood off the coast of the United States, and I would imagine Canada, with all the things that people can't get. How many times have you heard somebody say, it's on back order, it's on back order, it's on back order? It happens all the time. And in the industry that I'm in with aviation and food supply and all that stuff, sometimes getting most mundane items is extremely difficult. And it's because either a plant has been shut down because of COVID, or you just don't, it's hung up on ships off the coast and they can't get them unloaded. Mm-hmm. Well, what kind of nonsense is this? Mm-hmm. So there is a real problem there. I just don't know why we're having this great reluctance to actually deal with it.
Okay, and with that, we're going to take a couple of minutes break. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Especially if you're from Ottawa, you need to hear about this. You're listening to the Nick and Joe Show on the Think Radio Broadcast Network.
Okay, folks, thanks for sticking around. We have, this is the Nick and Joe Show. I'm Nick, he's Joe. He's in Ottawa. I'm in Sioux Lookout, where Sue spends a lot of time looking out. Anyway, that's a pretty poor pun, I know.
Oh, my goodness gracious. When did you come up with that one, Nick?
About 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
What am I going to say? Anyway, I had a point. Tom Harris is our guest. He is the head of an organization called International Climate Science Coalition, and he lives in Ottawa and runs the Canadian chapter of that august organization. At least I think I've got all that right, don't I, Tom?
Yes,
hello,
you
Tom.
do. Hello,
okay,
Tom.
I thought so.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I just didn't know what group you're talking about.
Yours.
Oh, yeah, right. We got a Canadian chapter. It's a nonprofit organization. Was incorporated earlier this year, that's for sure. And we're looking at Canadian issues, and we've just about finished a report on the City of Ottawa Climate Change Master Plan and associated documents. And, oh, boy, it's going to knock them into the ditch.
Okay, let's get into the City of Ottawa plan.
Mm-hmm.
because we've
no more
talked
wasting time. Let's get on with this.
We've talked about this, and this isn't just now. We were talking about it being the City of Ottawa plan, and it is, and we were making jokes about if you're from Ottawa or near Ottawa,